What if death was written at birth? Imagine that you are born and the doctors, right after measuring your height and weight, give you one more piece of information, the most important one: the date of your death. It is not a guess nor a prediction. It is a certainty. It cannot be changed. There is no escape from it. You can live carefully, healthily. You can take risks and play with fate. But this specific date will never change. What would it mean? What would your life be like if you knew from the beginning when it would end? This question seems absurd, but at the same time fascinating. After all, each of us carries within us the awareness of death. We know it will come, but we don't know when. And it is this ignorance that influences our choices, our fears, dreams, and relationships. Would a world in which everyone knew their own end be better or worse? Would life become more intense and conscious, or, on the contrary, meaningless? Would people live more fully, making the most of each day? Or would they fall into apathy, counting down the days like prisoners? In today's episode, we'll reflect on this extraordinary vision. We'll go back to mythology and prophecy, look at psychology, science, and true stories of people who somehow knew the moment of their death. We'll try to answer the question: does knowing the end give meaning to life, or does it take it away? Welcome to another episode of Unknown Tales Files. Ahead of us is a journey that begins with birth and leads to an end that cannot be avoided. Part 1. Prophecies and Fate in the Mythologies of the World. While the idea of knowing the date of death at birth may seem modern, humanity has been asking itself similar questions for thousands of years. In ancient cultures, almost every mythology had figures who decided the fate of people, not only their lives, but also the moment of death. Interestingly, this motif was repeated regardless of continent, language, or era. In Greek mythology, a person's fate was intertwined by the Moirai, the three goddesses of fate. Clotho spun the thread of life, Lachesis measured its length, and Atropos cut it at a chosen moment. No man, not even a god, could influence Atropos's decision. It was she who knew when a person would die. And although she did not reveal the date, its inevitability was universally accepted. In Scandinavia, the fate of human life rested in the hands of the Norns, three beings resembling the Moirai. One looked into the past, another into the present, and the third into the future. They sat at the foot of the Yggdrasil tree, writing the fates of all beings in the bark of its trunk. Viking warriors did not fear death, believing that no one would die a moment sooner or later than their destiny. The ancient Egyptians, on the other hand, believed that a person's fate was written in the Book of the Dead, a collection of spells and rituals that were supposed to help the soul in its journey after death. Although they did not know the exact date of death, their entire lives were a preparation for the inevitable. The moment of death was not the end, but a transition to another form of existence. The Maya and Aztec cultures also had complex calendars of life and death. Priests could predict a person's fate by analyzing their date of birth, including how and when they might die. Their beliefs combined astrology, ritual, and observation of the cycles of nature. While each of these cultures portrayed death differently, they shared one common element: the belief that there is a higher power or order that knows our end, and that man, regardless of his will, cannot escape what has been assigned to him. Part 2. Thought Experiment. A world in which everyone knows the date of their death. Let's imagine an alternative reality. A world in which at the moment of birth, together with a birth certificate, we receive an official document, a death certificate. It contains the date and even the hour of our departure. 100% unchangeable. Society has been accustomed to this for generations, and every person grows up with this knowledge. What would such a world look like? First, education. Would children be taught differently if it was known that one would die at 18 and another would live to be 100? Is it worth investing in a long college education if your life would end shortly after graduation? Would states provide equal access to education, or would education become a privilege of the long-lived? What about careers? The job market would be completely transformed. Employers would hire people based on their life expectancy, not only for efficiency, but also to plan replacements, successions, and retirements. Maybe special life planning agencies would be created to help people make the most of the time they have left. In interpersonal relationships, there could be a division into those who go early and those who still have time. Would love between people with completely different end dates be a rarity, or perhaps the opposite, the strongest form of feeling, aware of how few days together they have left? Governments and laws would have to adapt. The pension system would be precise, but also ruthless. No one would live longer than the planned day, so there would be no need to save just in case. Insurance? Its role would change drastically. Perhaps it would disappear altogether. And crime? Would people commit crimes knowing that the victim would die on a given day anyway? Would the death penalty make sense in a world where everyone knows their end date? Such a world could be more orderly, logical, perhaps even just. But would it be humane? Part 3. Psychological and social consequences. Knowing the exact date of one's death, for some, it would be peace, for others, a curse. The human psyche is incredibly complex, and the answer to the question of how such a world would affect the individual and society is not clear. Imagine a teenager who knows he will die at the age of 32. Wouldn't he have experienced existential anxiety as a child? Wouldn't his parents be overprotective, knowing that the time they spend with their son is strictly limited? In such a world, depression could take on a new dimension. It would no longer be a response to a lack of understanding of reality, but a reaction to its brutal clarity. But there is also another side to the coin. Some people could feel a huge sense of relief. Knowing that their time is limited, they could live more fully, without fear of chance, without uncertainty, without obsession with health. Such awareness could also significantly affect the approach to relationships. People would perhaps not delay confessing their feelings. They would not postpone their dreams. Each day would have more weight, because it would be closer to the end. Religions would not remain indifferent either. In a world where everyone knows their end, the question of free will would gain a new dimension. Would belief in providence make sense? Would salvation be something worth striving for if the final moment is inevitable and unchangeable? Social rituals and holidays would also change. Birthdays could take on a bitter aftertaste, each year a reminder of how much time is left. Perhaps societies would also begin to celebrate so-called midpoints or final years. Entire cultures could focus on celebrating endings, not beginnings. In turn, healthcare would undergo a transformation. Is it worth treating a serious illness if you know that the patient will die in exactly 5 years? Not a day sooner, not a day later? Medicine could focus solely on the quality of life, not on extending it. Psychologists, clergy, philosophers, all would be challenged to understand the new nature of man. The awareness of the end has always influenced our thoughts. But what if we not only know that we will die, but exactly when? Part 4. Science and genetics. Can death be predicted? In the real world, no one is born with an exact date of death written on their forehead. And yet, science has been trying for decades to answer the question of whether it is possible to predict how much life we have ahead of us. Is it possible to determine the date of death with a high degree of probability? And if so, on what basis? Modern genetics has made huge strides forward. By sequencing DNA, scientists can detect predispositions to many diseases, such as Alzheimer's, cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. There are even commercial companies that, for a fee, analyze your genes and provide a list of potential health risks. But these are still just statistics, not a verdict. On the other hand, we have advanced data analysis and the development of artificial intelligence. Algorithms learn from millions of cases. They analyze age, lifestyle, eating habits, stress levels, living environment. There is increasing talk of creating biometric death clocks that can predict the end of the body based on changes in the body. One such tool is the so-called epigenetic clock, which examines DNA methylation. These changes are related to the aging process and theoretically can determine how much time we have left. Forensic medicine also provides interesting observations. In some cases, based on the condition of the organs, It is possible to estimate a person's approximate biological age, which is often different from that recorded on the ID card. People who lead an extreme lifestyle can biologically wear out faster than their birth certificate would indicate. An interesting topic is the study of animal lifespan. Some organisms, such as jellyfish of the species Turritopsis dohrnii, show signs of biological immortality. So can the death clock be manipulated in humans as well? Although science is increasingly adept at analyzing risk, there is no technology yet that can predict with absolute accuracy the date of a specific person's death. But is it just a matter of time? Will there come a day when a computer, based on a scan of your body and your genetic code, says, "Your life will end on October 23rd, 24 years from now"? Part 5. Stories of people who knew the date of their death. While most people live in ignorance of their end date, there are cases where individuals have, consciously or unconsciously, come to know the moment of their death. These are not mythology or thought experiments, but actual documented stories that still cause concern and reflection today. Take, for example, the cases of terminally ill people. A diagnosis of cancer in the 4th stage, when medicine no longer offers any treatment, is for many a death sentence. Doctors often give an expected lifespan, a month, 6 months, sometimes a few weeks. Interestingly, some patients die almost to the day according to predictions, as if the body were adjusting to external judgment. Others, however, defy these predictions, surviving longer or dying earlier, as if consciousness itself influenced the course of events. A separate phenomenon are convicts who are told the date of execution, the day, the hour, the place, all known in advance. In the last days of their lives, many of them experience an internal transformation. There are farewell letters, confessions, sudden conversions, sometimes a last conversation with family, sometimes silence. Interestingly, some claim that it is the knowledge of the end that makes them feel truly free. There is no need to plan anything. There is no need to choose anything. There are also more mysterious stories. 19th century newspapers contain accounts of people who feel their deaths and say goodbye to their families the day before the tragic accident. Modern media occasionally describe people who post online posts like, "This is my last day," and actually die shortly afterwards, often as a result of an unfortunate event. One of the most famous such figures was Abraham Lincoln. According to accounts from his family, a few days before his assassination, he reported a dream in which he saw his own body displayed in a coffin in the White House. The dream was so detailed that it still raises questions. Was it just a coincidence, or perhaps an unconscious vision of the coming tragedy? Among clairvoyants, there is also no shortage of people who supposedly know the exact date of death, not only that of others, but also their own. Usually, such predictions are treated as autosuggestion or coincidence. Despite this, for centuries people have not stopped asking the question, can you touch on something that has not yet happened with a premonition? Is it intuition, subconscious, or maybe a written script? What if somewhere in the fabric of our reality, the day of our end is truly written? Only we don't know it. Maybe it is this ignorance that gives us freedom, or the illusion of freedom. Because if we knew the date of our death, would we be more ourselves, or quite the opposite? One wonders what we would do with such knowledge. But perhaps another question is more important. What do we do with ignorance? Do we live consciously? Do we love as if there were no tomorrow? Death is the only certainty in life, but how we treat it is our choice. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe if you want, and see you in the next episode.